This is your sign to have a reading girl summer. One of the best experiences of girlhood is reading a book by a body of water with the sun on your face. So, whether you are already a reader or you want to become a reader, there is no better time to read than in the summer with a fun beachy read, holding an ice-cold beverage and reading lots of summer-themed books. And as someone who loves a beach read, I am going to show you some of my absolute favorite books with immaculate summer vibes that is perfect for anyone who is just trying to get into reading or anyone who is already a reader and just wants some fresh book ideas for the summer. We've got romance, women's fiction, thriller, and since we are always glowing up and becoming the best versions of ourselves, I've included some self-help books as well. I'll also go over my reading list for this summer because it is quite extensive. First, I'm going to have us start off with what I think are just the quintessential beach reads. Like, you're on a boat in the Mediterranean Sea. You are having a New England summer. You are by the pool. You are at the lake. Just good, happy, sunny vibes. Books that will make you feel like you are there. So, the first one I have for us is One Italian Summer. This is set in Positano, which is on the Amalfi Coast in Italy. I have been there before, and I literally planned my whole Italy trip around going to the places that the main character talks about going. It's about a woman who is very close to her mom. She loses her mom, and she ends up going to Italy, which is a place that was really special to her mom. And when she's there, there's kind of a surprise that happens. So this is really good. It has magical realism. So it's fiction and it's like somewhat realistic, but there's kind of like a mythical element that we as the readers don't necessarily understand, and this book does it so well. And also, if you just love Italy or if you're planning like an Italian trip, please read this. Like, you will not regret it. Trigger warning, it is like a little bit sad though, and it can be heavy at times. And again, this is One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searle. She is a really good writer. I'm going to recommend is, honestly, you can pick up any book by this author, and all of her books are pretty similar but also really good in their own ways, and that is the Queen of Beach Reads, Miss Elin Hilderbrand. She writes all sorts of books that are set on Nantucket. I have so many of her books. I have a million. Like, she is just the summer it girl to read. I love her so much, and she writes fiction books. Some of them have like some mystery in them, some of them have romance in them, but usually it's a wide variety of characters, and each of her books is a standalone, so it doesn't matter which one you read. If you're just starting off with Elin Hilderbrand, my top 3 that I would recommend would be The Hotel Nantucket. This one is about a hotel that's being restored. It was abandoned for a while, and it has all these different people's perspectives who work at the hotels, like guests, the managers, the people of Nantucket, all different ages, and they're all trying to restore this hotel to its former glory. Like, it burned down and was an eyesore, and there's also a mystery element in this as well, which is really fun. And you've got like a little bit of romance, you've got relationships, and it's just very fun to see everybody's perspective and everybody's interpretation of things. And then there's kind of just this fun big reveal at the end. So that one's really good. I rated that one like 5 stars. I think that's her best one that I've read. The next one I'm going to recommend is The 5-Star Weekend. 5-Star Weekend is about a woman named Hollis. Hollis is like a famous food blogger, and she's married to this man named Matthew, who's a heart surgeon. He is going on vacation or a business call, and he gets in an accident and he tragically passes away. So definitely check your trigger warnings for this one. Hollis is grieving and such, and she does have a house on Nantucket, so over the summer she invites her friends from all different times in her life, like all different decades, like her childhood best friend, her best friend from college, her best friend now. She also invites this random lady from her blog who's like a subscriber or a reader of her blog, and they all get together at her house in Nantucket and have just this perfect picturesque weekend. This is just a perfect like women's fiction book. Like, there's like a little bit of romance, but it has a lot to do with female friendships, which is really cool. It's almost like, it reminds me of the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, but ladies in their 50s. So I love that one. My next one I'm going to recommend is one that I don't see recommended too much, which is called The Rumor, which is so fun. This is basically just set on Nantucket, and it's all these rich people or people who live around the island, and there's all this gossip and drama that goes down. If you love like reality TV shows like Real Housewives and that type of thing, you will eat this up. It is about two best friends and kind of their unraveling of their friendship and all the rumors and stuff like that that goes on, especially in like a tight-knit kind of upper class community like Nantucket. And of course you've got scenes at the beach and such. My next book that I'm going to recommend, this is called The Last Summer at the Golden Hotel, and I really enjoyed this one because it reminded me a lot of the Hotel Nantucket. But this is about a property up in the Catskills of New York that's going to be torn down, but these two families that run it, they are getting together one last time to get ready to sell this hotel. And so this one's just really nostalgic. It's set at a lake. This one's really fun. It has like lots of different characters, and it plays with the kind of intergenerational elements of families and stuff. Like you've got the older grandparents in their 80s, and it's just interesting to see how they think versus like the young people. It has like a lot of good lessons, and it's overall just very nostalgic. I recommend listening to that one on Audible. The next one I'm going to recommend is one that I've never seen recommended before, but I picked this up at Barnes & Noble. One, this is called She's Faking It. It's by Kristen Rockaway, and I picked it up because it's about a young woman living in San Diego, and San Diego is one of my favorite cities ever. It's about Brie Bozeman. She isn't pursuing the life of her dreams. I think she's working at DoorDash. She's having a hard time because San Diego is very, very expensive to live in. And then all of a sudden she joins this sort of like self-help / MLM group, and this inspires her to start an Instagram account. She becomes an influencer out of nowhere. She thinks this is her dream job, and she's getting all these brand deals, and there's a guy that she likes. She gets so into this lady who has this cult following of like lifestyle, rebranding, being your best self, that Brie falls into this trap of. She ends up going to like a retreat, and things just don't go very well. I thought this was just a really fun book about like how social media isn't everything and like you have to live in the real world, but I feel like it also just has like great vibes that it's set in San Diego. It's just so summer to me, and if you are obsessed with Southern California like I am, I definitely recommend this. This is just a super quick, fast read. Next book out of this set that I'm going to recommend, this is just the Trader Joe's matcha, and it's really good. The next book I'm going to recommend is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Pelton. I think this is a fairly popular book, but I really enjoy it because it is set in the Pacific Northwest at like a little coastal town, and I grew up in a coastal town in Washington State, north of Seattle, so it's really nostalgic for me. But it's about three characters, three interconnected stories. We've got Tova. She is like a janitor at an aquarium. Her husband passed away, and her son disappeared many years ago, and so she's kind of navigating grief and living by herself. And then you've got a guy named Cameron who comes up for the summer. I don't exactly remember why, but he comes from like Modesto, California, and he has kind of this attitude that he does not want to be there. He's not really doing anything with his life, and he doesn't really have any sort of sense of direction. And then you've got my favorite, you've got Marcellus, who is a giant Pacific octopus, and you get his perspective, and he lives in this aquarium, and he and Tova kind of develop a friendship together, and you learn so much about just octopuses and how they think, because octopuses are a lot smarter than you'd realize. And so it's kind of just about these three people like navigating grief, hardship, but honestly it doesn't feel sad at all. I didn't feel sad when I was reading it. It kind of just feels like a warm hug. And I also recommend it specifically for summer because it is set in the Pacific Northwest in the summer, which I think is one of the most beautiful places in the world. And so if you are interested in the Pacific Northwest, or you are from here, I recommend it. Or if you like having an animal as a character, I really recommend this one. And then the final one I'm going to recommend is The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants by Anne Brashares. And if you haven't read this one, which most people probably have, if you haven't read this one, I highly recommend. It is just all about girlhood. It's four girls doing different things over the summer, and it's like their first summer apart, and they are sending this pair of pants back and forth, which somehow magically fits them all. So you've got like one girl's in Mexico doing a soccer camp, one girl's in Greece, one girl is across the country living with her father that she never sees, and one girl's at home working at a store. And so it just offers like a good perspective, and it's just so girlhood, and I highly recommend it if you haven't read it yet. Next, let's get into the romance section. I have quite a lot of recommendations for this category, but I'll try not to repeat myself too much with the popular ones. That was close. The first one I'm gonna recommend is called The Roughest Draft. This is by two authors. This is by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Broca. To me, I felt this book was pretty similar to Emily Henry's style of writing, and so if you enjoy Emily Henry, you will probably like this. I thought my cat was over there. This is about two authors that would write books together all the time. They were partners, they were like famous, and then they kind of just ended on bad terms, and so they haven't written together in a really long time, and they're both just kind of having problems personally and professionally as writers, and they didn't think they would ever work together again. But what do you expect? They are working together again, and this is set in the beautiful Florida Keys, and they are sharing a house together, and they're co-writing together. The setting is wonderful. I love Florida and the Florida Keys, so it is very, very summer. And then also, if you just enjoy literature and books and are interested about the writing process, I think that you will really enjoy this book. The romance is very, very slow burn, but I think that it is worth it. I really enjoyed this. I read this while I was on a cruise to Mexico, and it just fit the vibes perfectly. Next up, we've got the Parallel series, and I read this on Kindle Unlimited. The Parallel series is by Elizabeth O'Rourke. I read this recently, and I never see this series recommended, but it was so good. It's like time travel vibes and magical realism meets romance and like smut. It's about a woman named Quinn. She's about to get engaged, and then she faints or has a seizure or something, and she has a dream about this man. Turns out she goes to the hospital. This man is her doctor, and there are 4 books in this series. I wish that there were more. I cannot get enough of the series, but the reason why it's summer is because you have like back and forth scenes from her childhood, and it deals a lot with not only time travel but kind of like different dimensions, glitch in the matrix. Like if you're interested in that, I highly recommend. Like this is one of my top books of 2025 definitely, and I literally read each book in a day. It was so good, and I usually never do that. It gives summer because it goes through different parts of her childhood and flashes back to her adult life, and it takes place during the summer. Like she's at a lake, she's planning for her wedding, and then she's flashing back to like when she's at a lake as a child. So I just really think that anybody who is interested in time traveling, glitch in the matrix, as well as romance will really enjoy these books. The next book I am going to recommend is called Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This is such a beautiful, nostalgic romance book about childhood friends and teenage love that kind of fell apart, and then the man is named Sam. The woman is named Persephone. She comes back to the lake all these years later. They haven't seen each other in forever for the funeral of Sam's mom, and they reconnect, and it's just such a beautiful story. It has grief in it, and it has just beautiful lake imagery. I think the author says that she like took inspiration off of this lake that she went to growing up, and you can really feel the love and passion and inspiration that Carly Fortune has for this place. As a reader, you just see it so beautifully in this book. And it's also exciting because she has kind of a standalone, kind of a sequel to this book that came out this summer, and so I'm hoping to read that as well. And so yeah, this is just a really beautiful lake romance. And I also read this probably 2 years ago, but I remember it like I read it the other day because it's just good, and I really just think about it, and I feel like a lot of romances, they're like a little bit predictable and you can sometimes forget. This one I have not forgotten about. Moving on is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This book right here, I read this, or I listened to this book on Audible. I think I read it last year, and it was one of my top books of 2024. I loved it so much. It is about a woman who spends the summer in New York City at her aunt's old apartment, and her aunt has passed away. I don't know why in all these books, so many of these books have to do with grief. Sorry about that, I apologize. Check your trigger warnings, please. This woman moves into her aunt's apartment after her aunt dies. There's just some interesting lore about the apartment where like, every time she leaves it, or sometimes when she leaves it, she goes backwards 7 years. So she's kind of going back and forth between the 7 years and the modern day, and then like when she goes back, she's meeting this man who lives in the apartment, and it's just a romance between them. It's really beautiful. It's got magical realism and time travelness, and so I really enjoyed this. It's set in New York during the summer. I personally have never been to New York in the summer, but this really made me want to go, and it almost makes New York in the summer be another character, which just shows like how good the author was at describing the setting. But yeah, this was my favorite Ashley Poston book. I think I gave this 5 stars. I think about this book all the time. Like, I wish I could read something similar to this. Next up, I know that this author gets recommended all the time, and I said that I wasn't gonna do too many popular books, but I'm still gonna do these, and that is Miss Emily Henry, who I think is the other queen of beach reads. And I'm gonna recommend 2 of her books because some of her books have been like a little bit of a miss for me. Like beach read I didn't enjoy too much, but the 2 books I'm going to recommend are Happy Place and People We Meet on Vacation. Start with People We Meet on Vacation. I love this. This is about Poppy and Alex. Poppy, she works for like a travel magazine, and so she gets to go on all these trips all the time, and she usually brings her good friend Alex from college, and every year they go on a different trip together because she's like reviewing them for a magazine, until like 2 years ago or something happens between the 2 of them and they are not traveling together anymore. But now Poppy is taking another vacation, and somehow she just decides to invite Alex, and then he finally agrees and they decide that they're going to Palm Springs together. And I really enjoyed this book because I love to travel. They are going to so many great places, and the author does such a good job of like describing all these places. It makes you feel like you're there, and so you're reading what's going on in modern times, and then each chapter is also like a flashback into a vacation that they went on. So each chapter rotates between being like what's going on in the present day between Poppy and Alex as they are preparing to go on their vacation, and then the next chapter will be like, oh, this is the vacation that they took 10 years ago to Canada, and this is what they did, and it shows their friendship, and it goes up until the most recent vacation where something went terribly wrong. I love this one. This was a really good friends to lovers romance if you're into that, and also if you just really are into traveling like me, I definitely recommend this one. And then this next one, Happy Place. Again, I love the setting of this one. It's about Harriet and I think his name's Win. They have been together for a while. They're like supposedly like the perfect couple. So Harriet's from California and Win is from Montana, and they actually ended up breaking up, and they were together for so long, but they ended up breaking up and they never really told anybody. And so it's a tradition with their friend group that every summer they go to a beach house in Maine, in coastal Maine. So they both decide that they're still gonna go on this trip, but they're gonna pretend that they're still together. And so nobody knows about their breakup. And so they're kind of fake dating, but there's already a lot of history there. And I just think the writing is done really well. I love the scenery descriptions. It just made me want to book a trip to coastal Maine. And this is just a 10 out of 10 book to read by a body of water. You'll be so entertained. This was a 5-star read for me. Next up, we have The Summer of Broken Rules. This is by K.L. Walther. This is a YA romance about 2 young teenagers. They're going to a wedding in Martha's Vineyard, and there's like a little bit of romance, but they're also playing like this kind of game of assassin at the same time. And so it's just really lighthearted, fun, young adult. If you enjoyed The Summer I Turned Pretty, I think that you will really like this one. And then I wanted to talk about Christina Lauren. The 2 books I'm going to recommend are The Paradise Problem and The Unhoneymooners. I know a lot of people really like to recommend Love and Other Words, and I really do like that one. However, that one just feels so winter to me that I'm going to recommend these 2. So starting off with The Unhoneymooners, it's about a twin named Olive. She has a sister who got married and was supposed to go on vacation. It was supposed to be her honeymoon with her husband. It didn't work out, so Olive has to go on this vacation to Maui in her place, and in the husband's place is the best man, who of course happens to be Olive's nemesis, and they have to share a hotel room and do all these activities together. And so this is just super fun, super beachy. It's set in Hawaii, and look at this cover. Like, this cover just screams summer, spring break, tropical fun vibes. This is like my vision board. Next one I'm going to recommend is The Paradise Problem. This is about Anna and West. Anna and West end up trying to get into like subsidized UCLA housing, but for some reason they both can't rent due to some sort of reason, and so they end up marrying each other so they're able to live together. And they kind of just live as roommates, whatever. You don't really see much interaction. And then later, when it's time to move out, they sign the divorce papers. It's all done. They move on with their lives. no animosity, nothing bad really happened. But then like 3 years later, Anna's still living in LA. She's having a really hard time because she's a starving artist and LA is expensive. And then West contacts her and is like, you need to come with me to a family wedding on an exotic island in Polynesia. And so she's kind of like, huh? And he's like, I'll explain everything. She thought that they were divorced. But anyways, she ends up going to this island with them, and he has made like this whole alter ego story about her. Like, he says that she's a medical doctor, a med student, and she's kind of going along with it in front of like his rich, judgmental family. And both of the characters in this are just so lovable. I loved the tropical setting. It was just a really good balance of romance with like real life stuff with being on a beautiful island. The first book I'm going to recommend for the thriller section is called Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. This is about Lux. She is working in Maui at a hotel at just kind of a dead-end job. She gets fired, but then she and her boyfriend Nico, they are hired by these two women asking to sail to like some like exotic forbidden island in like the middle of the South Pacific, and they're kind of like, this is our opportunity to get out. And so they do. They finally get to this island. They are just totally isolated. At first it's perfect, but then Lux starts feeling weird and there's just kind of some odd vibes, and this was just a really good mystery thriller that has a tropical setting. Next one I'm going to recommend are two books by Catherine St. John. I don't have them with me, but we've got The Siren and The Lion's Den are the two books. Okay, so let's talk about The Lion's Den. The Lion's Den is about a lady named Belle. She's living in LA and she is failing as an actress. And then she gets invited by one of her rich friends who is dating like this billionaire to go on a yacht through like the south of France and Italy and on the Mediterranean. And so she's like, yeah, I will. Like, that sounds great. Like, who wouldn't? And then she gets on the boat and things are just really unsettling. Like, the vibes are not it. She feels controlled and she doesn't know if she's gonna make it off alive. And so that one was so good, especially if you are having like a European summer or have like a hyperfixation with Europe in the summer and the Mediterranean. I recommend this one. I literally read this while I was on my France and Italy trip, and it was just like the perfect book to read. It was fun because it was so fast paced while also like describing like the beauty of all these places in southern France and the Italian Riviera. And then the next one we have The Siren, which is about a movie that's being filmed in the Caribbean, and we've got two like ex-husband and wives who are going to be playing the leads together, and then you've got like the producer, and then you also have like the assistant to the main actress, and there's like a huge storm coming, and there's romance, there's drama. It's definitely a true thriller, and it's set in the Caribbean, so perfect beach read. I ate this one up. If you're interested in like Hollywood like I am, and movie stars and rich people, you will love this one. The next thriller I'm going to recommend is called Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekuluk. This one was so good. This is about a girl who used to be into drugs, and then she's kind of getting her life together, and so she starts nannying for this couple, and something's like a little bit strange. Like, they live in a really nice house and stuff, and the wife is very nice, but the husband is kind of rude to her. There's like some tension, some animosity between them, and the child that she's taking care of is doing some like weird things. He's kind of drawing like weird pictures, and it's starting to become unsettling, and so it's up to the main character. She's trying to figure out like what the heck is going on. It's like a perfect summer thriller. There's like a little bit of like paranormal in it as well as suspense, and so definitely recommend those. And then next we've got historical fiction. The first one I'm going to start off with is The Hotel Laguna. This is about a woman who worked on like airplanes during World War II, and then after the war is done, she basically gets fired because she's a woman, and so she goes down to Laguna Beach and is trying to make a life for herself there, and ends up helping this artist. I really enjoyed this one because it is just so interesting to hear a woman's perspective of like being forced to go back to doing more like feminine duties after the war was done, and then also just having it be set in Laguna Beach. Laguna Beach is one of my favorite places of all time, and then just to hear it described about what it was like during the early 1950s was just really beautiful, and there's romance in it. I just was so immersed in the story. It's just a perfect historical fiction book to read on the beach. And then I'm going to recommend Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. She also wrote The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones and the Six. So if you like those, you will probably enjoy this. This is her most summer book. This is set in Malibu in 1983. It is about the children of a famous actor slash singer named Mick Riva. And every year they have like a big party at a beach house. And it kind of just describes like each of them and what they're going through. There's just so much drama, so much lore. And then it also like goes back into their mom and when she first met Mick Riva back in the 50s. And it's just a really amazing story about a family. And so yeah, and I think overall like a lot of these themes that I'm talking about like nostalgia, families, like multiple generations and their perspectives. And I think that those are just like really good themes for the summer. But yeah, this also deals with like heavy topics such as like alcoholism, grief, stuff like that. But yeah, this is one of my favorite books ever, and it is so summer. Another California coast book. And then the next one I'm going to recommend, if you haven't read this book yet, this is Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. There's also a Netflix show about it. It is about two girls who meet in the 70s and become best friends, and they basically grow up together. They both are interested in journalism and being in the news, and it's just about their journey together and the ups and downs of their friendships. And it's just really sweet, and also just a really sad story, but it just reminds me of summer, just hearing about their childhood in the 70s. And it's also set close to where I live, so it's just extra nostalgic for me. But this was just such a beautiful book. I think about this all the time. I bawled my eyes out to this, and I also did the same thing again and watched the show and also bawled my eyes out to this. And so I really recommend reading this before you watch the show because it was just so good. This makes me want to read more Kristen Hanna in the future for sure. Okay, and then since we are always on a journey to glow up and become our best selves, I do have some more like self-help slash spirituality books. The first one is called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And this book's like kind of a lot. It almost just feels like a meditation that you're reading, and it can be like a little esoteric. It can kind of freak you out at some points. But it's just really all about being mindful and being in the moment. And if you are somebody who struggles with that like me, sometimes like with summer being busy with parties and fun events and stuff like that, we can forget to kind of just chill and be. And so I recommend this one if you want to be like a little bit more mindful of your surroundings and just live a more mindful and aware life. I read that book like 2 or 3 years ago, and I still think about it, and I really should reread it. This is called Love Warrior by Glennon Doyle. And this one's not really summer, but I thought I would recommend it anyways because this is really good if you're on a healing journey or if you're going through any type of heartbreak. This is a memoir about a woman who is dealing with her husband cheating and just lessons she learned to become like strong, powerful, brave, and kind of reclaim her voice. And so this is just really good if you are going through grief or sadness, or particularly like heartbreak, like a boyfriend or like a breakup. I highly recommend this book. So those are all the books that I recommend for this summer. There were so many others that I wanted to recommend, but I gotta keep like a smaller list, and then maybe eventually I can make another book video. And so I thought that I would just quickly go through some of the books that I'm looking forward to reading this summer. Okay, so I want to read more Elin Hilderbrand. My top Elin books that I want to read this summer are Silver Girl. This is about a woman whose husband got charged with like money laundering and bad stuff like that, and they're like losing all their assets, and he was really famous, and she is humiliated, but she is going to Nantucket with her friend. And then the next one I want to read is Swan Song, which is about one of my favorite characters, which is like the detective or the main police officer in Nantucket. And this is actually Elin Hilderbrand's last book that she says she's gonna write. And so I almost want to like save this one for last because I think it'll make me sad, but I'm also just really eager to finally read this one. And so I'm really looking forward to these Elin Hilderbrand books. And then I'm also looking forward to, I want to read The Blue Bistro by her, which is a really old one of hers, but I heard it has really similar vibes to The Hotel Nantucket, which was the one I talked about earlier, which is like my favorite Elin book. The next one I want to read is called Bad Summer People. This is by Emma Rosenblum. This is set on Fire Island, which is in New Jersey. It's described as like a White Lotus setup with wicked clever fun. looks like there's like a lot of nasty people in it, and I know that a body turns up on the shore. So I think this will be like a really fun, fast-paced read that I can read on vacation really fast and easily. The next one I want to read is One Golden Summer, which is not the sequel necessarily, but in the same realm as Every Summer After, and it's just like a few different characters, and I'm really excited to read it on the lake this summer. So that's one that I'm looking forward to. The next book is called The Resort. This is by Sarah Oakes, and this basically just sounds exactly like The White Lotus. Like, it's a woman who's going to an upscale resort in Thailand, and there's like murder, mystery. It kind of sounds like that. If you watched White Lotus, the most recent season, the three friends, like Kate, Lori, Jacqueline, like this sounds exactly like them, and so I'm eager to read this. I think this would be really good on like a plane ride. I love reading thrillers on plane rides. Like, makes the time go by so fast. The next book that I'm really looking forward to reading is a Kristen Hanna book, and this is called The Women. I really need to read more Kristen Hanna books because I've only read Firefly Lane, and I know that she's such a good author and she's recommended so much. But this one isn't necessarily summer, but I really want to read this because I know it's about the main character is a nurse, and like being a nurse, I'm always eager to read books about nurses, their perspectives, and this is set during the Vietnam War. This is like, she's a nurse in the Vietnam War, and it's her experiences with that, so I think this will be like really interesting and really informative. Next book I want to read is called Sandwich. I think that this will be similar to an Elin Hilderbrand book. Let me see who it's by real quick. Okay, Sandwich. It is by Catherine Newman, and this is about like a family that goes on a week-long vacation every year in Cape Cod, and it just sounds like something I'd eat up because it's like got family drama, like multiple generations, nostalgia, set on Cape Cod. You can just tell that I'm like vicariously living like a New England summer through all these books that I read. I really want to read that one this summer. The next book that I really want to read is called Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan, and I've been wanting to read Annabelle Monaghan's books for so long, but I somehow haven't. I keep thinking that they'll be free on Kindle Unlimited, and they never are. Summer Romance is about a woman whose mom died. She's grieving, her husband left her, super sad, and then she goes to the beach over the summer and she meets a man, and I just think that sounds like super good. Another book about grief, it sounds like. I'm hoping that it'll be similar to like an Elin Hilderbrand book plus like more romance. Okay, I've got Husbands and Lovers. This is by Beatrice Williams. I got this from Book of the Month like last summer, and I've kind of been saving it so I can read it during the summer. But it is about like a few different people and what they're going through like with their relationships and their love like through time. Like, I think it starts off with Mallory, who's like a single mom, and something bad happens to her son at summer camp, and then the other perspective is it's set in 1951 in Cairo, Egypt, with another woman, and so I think that'll just be super interesting, and I really enjoy the shifting back and forth of timelines. So yeah, this is very highly anticipated for 2025 summer. So that is all I have for you guys for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you're still watching, I love you and appreciate you. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe for more videos like this, and let me know in the comments how many books you are trying to read this summer, or what are your like highly anticipated books for this summer. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!